This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
You know, when people reach out and ask for help and it's something as simple as, hey, shipping her a box of tampons.
The one thing about this girl is she's never asked me for anything. She may have hinted about tampons.
Well, it is the 16th of March, 2021. My name is Corey Winfield.
My name's Marty Winfield.
No, Marty's not here today. I am joined, though, however, by a very special guest, Justin. Justin, how are you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing well. Doing well. I mean, I'd rather have Marty in the chair.
I'm sure she's much better to look at.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But no, I'm glad that you're here, man. This has been a journey for you. I've known you for a hot minute, and I'm proud that you're sitting in the chair, man. You're in the studio, and you're sober. How much time you got?
Just over 14 months.
Nice. Feels good, doesn't it?
It feels excellent. Never thought I'd feel this great in life ever.
Have you ever bought anybody a box of tampons?
Yes.
Nice. Did you ship them?
No, I did not.
Okay, I'm going to make note of that. Did not ship. All right, cool. Now we got that question out of the way. Now we can get back to the sober time stuff. Sorry.
So have you ever shipped out a box of tampons?
I have not. No, I haven't. My friend Dustin did, though. He was obviously the guy in the open. He's learning. Can't save them all, but we can try.
Hopefully he hung up his cape by now.
No, he actually is wearing the cape again, I think.
That's so sad.
Yeah. And the problem with sometimes, and I used to do this too, actually, try to help other people. Because it's easier to fix other people than it is to look in the mirror and fix the stuff that's wrong with you. You know, like looking at myself saying, Corey, you're pretty codependent. Maybe you should work on... No, I'm going to fix her, man. She's broke. Oh, well, maybe you should look at yourself. Well, no, man. I'll fix myself later. I got to help her. Or I gotta help him, you know, and it goes back and forth, you know. It's easier. You know, you don't have to face the reality of the situation, and I think that's part of learning acceptance.
Yes, I would agree with that. Like, I've noticed really with myself that I've really know that I'm codependent, so I'm, like, really working on that, like, just watching out and doing me instead of worrying about a relationship in that sense. You know, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe I shouldn't work for it quite so hard sometimes and just let things come naturally.
Like birth.
You're right, like birth.
Or pregnancies, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you got to take the baby steps, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But, yeah, and I like what you said, though, about the noticing that you're codependent, because that's the start of it, you know, like just knowing it doesn't fix it, you know, and like you said, okay, now I know that there's some codependent issues, and I can work on them, because a lot of times people, and I used to do this, you know, I know, you know, this is what's wrong, or this, now I figured it out, now I'm good. No, now you figured it out, and now you got some work to do, and it's not going to happen overnight. I still work on it. You know, there's things that I'm working on all the time, still reacting, you know, trying not to react to situations is something that I'm going to have to work on that the rest of my life.
Well, we do being addicts. I mean, that's something that's not going to go away. We always got to work on ourselves, and that's what gives us room to grow and appreciate life better, because we always see the growth that we're growing from where we were, even like me 14 months ago. Like, I'll be straight up honest, like I had a needle sticking out of my arm 14 months ago, you know. To sit where I'm at today, like, that's major growth to be able to experience that. And to know that better things are possible for people. And with the help of my therapist that you so enlisted me to have, she works out, you know, she works out really great. And
Susan.
Yeah, I love Susan, you know. She's a really smart woman. She really gives me a different perspective on life. Even if I think I'm doing all right, she calls me out my shit. She'll be like, you ain't got nothing going right. You're doing it wrong. Even though you think you're doing it right, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, Oh, thanks.
Yeah, Susan's good at that, man. I really like Susan, and I'm glad that you got hooked up with her. You know, she is not a put it in your face therapist, but she will call you out. You know, like, and not that the sense that we need to be called out. Like, you know, some people say you got to get a sponsor, man. It'll call you on your bullshit. Not like that, but she'll put it in different terms to where you'll call yourself out, or you'll come to the conclusion on your own, and she'll just be sitting there smiling. Okay, then yeah. I'm like, yeah, you're right, Susan.
She's very good at her job, and
yeah, I like Susan.
Yeah,
and she should listen more. I've told her that so many times. Like, Susan, we talk about you on the podcast sometimes, and she's like, no, you don't.
Yeah. I'll be glad to call her today to let her know, because she knows coming to Traverse City.
Oh, nice.
I had kind of an interview today down here, so
yeah,
it's working out good. Good things are happening in life. I come back down here tomorrow for another interview for Sober Living.
Nice.
Which is going to work out great.
Cool. So you're kind of making a move where you got out of treatment, because you went to treatment.
Yep.
First you were in jail. Well, first you had a needle sticking under your arm. Let's go back to that. And then you went where? To
jail, of
Holiday
course.
Inn? Oh, no, to jail. Okay.
Yeah, the Holiday Inn is what we can call it. Because it's kind of what it felt like. You know, you had room service. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Brought you meals.
Well, they bring you meals at your door.
Some toilet paper.
Yeah. You just hit a button, you know. It's kind of like calling the receptionist at the front desk. You know, you just hit that little button and say, hey, I'm out of toilet paper. Could you bring me some? Sure, whenever we get the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, they pick up your laundry 3 times a week, wash it for you.
Dang.
3 meals a day to your door. I mean, but the only problem is you're locked in a room about the size of your office. And you don't have a nice window to look out neither. So there's pits.
Yeah.
But to a drug addict, I mean, it's pretty well living large. I mean, you're eating, you're safe, and you're not using no more. Yeah, with yourself.
Oh.
Well, yeah, they discriminate on inmate.
Oh yeah, you don't want to break any rules.
Well, right. I mean, you may get on with some guy on guy, but not me.
Oh no, I'm heterosexual. Yeah. Anyway, so.
But anyways, I spent 7.5 months in jail. Reason why I probably got so long for my first felony is I was still using, so I just jumped my bond. I was like, oh, I'm just going to move out of state where they won't come and get me. I go to one of the 5 states that they don't come and get you at. So the plan was there, and it was all set in place. The day I was supposed to leave state, I get arrested. So then they bring me back to Lake County. Judge goes, oh, well, you jumped your bond. Well, here's 30 days. Your mandatory 30 days, no bond. You know, and then we'll sentence you in 30 days. And then they came in. They tried to get me to fill out this PSI packet. So that way they can figure out what your guidelines are, how much trouble you've ever been in. Like, it pretty much goes over your whole life story. And I was like, yeah, I ain't filling that out. I don't understand it. I tried playing that card. They're like, oh, well, you want longer time? Okay, well, we'll just tell the judge you're being non-compliant. He'll be really happy after you already jumped your bond, you're not compliant. I was like, he'll be filled out tomorrow, sir. But, you know, they sentenced me to 9 months. I did 7.5. Well, while I was in there, it was during COVID, which sucked. They took away our visits in March. Like, when everything shut down on the outside, like, for the people that was locked up, it sucked even more. Like, they took away our visits. We weren't even allowed to have any church functions at all in jail or anything. So, we couldn't even go out and get books at the little book stand that we had in our jail, which was out in the day room because the day room turned into quarantine. And so, like, we couldn't even get the pleasure of going and getting books. Like, just to walk down the hallway.
So, Were there people in there detoxing then?
No, they put it in quarantine for COVID. You had to sit. It was like being in max isolation for 2 weeks before they'd even put you in general population. So if you got arrested, you were just locked in your room with a twin bed. You're allowed out 1 hour a day to shower, no TV, phone privilege for only an hour a day.
But drugs, because drugs get into jails.
Oh, they can.
That's what I'm saying. And so, like, they were not getting into jail at this point, probably.
No, because they shut down the, like, you couldn't get anything mailed in but a letter. That was the only thing they were allowed accepting in. But before that, I mean, Lake County will still take the hardcover books, even if they're used. Like, they'll flip through them, thumb through them. Oh, there's nothing in there. Well, what they don't realize, people will break down the binding of them and shove a bunch of drugs in the binding, and then just hot glue it back together. Then it gives it to the inmate. Well, they just ripped the book apart. It was like, oh, well, we got $100 worth of dope here, and we're going to keep using while we're in jail. Like, guys, it's not that serious, is it? Like, who wants to be high in jail?
Ugh. Yeah.
And then if you start sleeping too much, then they really know something's going on. So this is not a good mix, especially in a small county.
No, so you're in jail. COVID sucks, and then what?
I started pushing for treatment. Because I realized by this point, you know, a few of the guards, I grew up there, so they were locals from the area, and they knew me. They're like, you know, maybe you should go to treatment. And one of them was a pastor at a local church, and I went to school with his kids. And he he would come in like once a week, ask me like step work questions, but I didn't realize what he was doing to me. If that makes any sense, you know, like he was like, oh, so I'm going to ask you a question and just think about it, you know. He goes, have you ever been powerless over anything in your life? And he goes, I don't want you to answer that right now. I'll see you next week. Because he did it like on his way out for the week. And he was like, oh, I'll see you next week. You know, which means after his 3 days off, he'll come talk to me. And he'd come talk to me about it, you know, and it really started sinking in. Okay, well, maybe I do have a problem, you know. And one thing that I did learn in there, though, was about forgiveness, which was a major thing. Forgiveness isn't just for the person that you're trying to forgive. It's more about for yourself. So that way you can feel at peace with yourself versus having a resentment towards somebody. Like, because I had a lot of resentments when I went to jail. Like, where's all these friends that I had while I was using? You know? Oh, they told me they were going to put money on my books.
Oh,
here we go. You know, all the false hopes and false promises, you know? So I started building resentments.
it's other people's friends. My friends will come through, though. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, they're not. They're not going to go put no money on your books. I'm like, yeah, they will. And
Yeah, my friends are real.
you know, and after, you know, so as in the process I'm locked up, my probation officer just so happens to have the probation officer they give me, which is one out of the two, has my whole family pretty much. My cousin's on probation, my brother's on probation, my mom's on probation, and I'm locked up in jail on probation. And we all got the same PO. And so he calls my mom and tells me, well, hey, you know, your son's getting such date. She goes, yeah, well, I didn't really talk to him in like 2.5 years. He went off on another bender, and, you know, so me and my mom started trying to build a relationship while I was in jail. You know, I wrote her letters once or twice every week, and it got bad, you know. Thinking back on it, like, I had the hardest first 7 months of any addict's time ever, because you're locked up behind bars. You don't get help by going to meetings, like normal people that go to detox and then go to treatment, and they're actually working the proper steps. But when you actually go to jail first, it's even harder. You know, people say, oh, well, that sometimes that they say that clean time don't count. But really, that clean time's harder clean time than just going to detox, going to treatment, and then actually spending time in meetings and getting that comforting feeling, oh, well, I'm not the only one that's going through all this. Because even like 5-6 months into my jail stay, I was like, oh, I figured out a way to beat my probation. I'm going to still use.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get out, like I did, I was like, for the first 2 hours, I was like, all right. And then here comes my little addiction speaking to me. Hey, well, let's just go get high. You're going to rehab anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, you're not successfully going to complete probation. You may as well just get high. And it taunted me a lot. Even after having 7.5 months clean, it still taunted me a lot in that sense. Like when they say it's just out there doing push-ups in the parking lot while you're in here not using. Oh, it really was. Like I went out and hung out with a friend as soon as I got out. While I was in there, I was like, oh, you want to hang out when I get out? I'm going to rehab. She goes, yeah, I won't use in front of you. The classic liner that I didn't realize it then. Until I went to rehab. But she's like, I won't use in front of you. We're even around you at that point. And here I am, not even 15 minutes down the road. Like, here she is pulling out her meth pipe. I'm getting high. Hopefully your willpower's strong. And it's like, whoa, And I knew I had to go get a few things. And I still continued to put myself in a bad predicament at that point. But I had, I kept strong, though. Like, I went and got the stuff I needed for rehab. I didn't use. I ended up having to drop me off at my brother's on the way back. So I'm like, oh, well, he's got a vehicle. I don't care if it's legal. Like, I'll take it, go to my mom's house, He's like, well, I'm going to bed and I'm not driving you nowhere. No, you're not taking my vehicle. It's not legal. I don't care if you got a driver's license still. He goes, all you need to do is get pulled over, go right back to jail as you're going to rehab tomorrow. So I ended up walking 6 miles home that night. And it was kind of interesting because I built a lot of resentments, even with myself. Like, I was mad at myself for the first time of putting myself in that situation that would cost me my sobriety.
Yeah. Some people will be like, not my fault. Not my fault. I wasn't the one, who whipped out the meth pipe. I didn't know, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it's your fault. Like you're the one to blame. It's not her fault. It's your fault, like you said, for putting yourself in those situations. And there was probably better options. And, I hear it today from people and they're just blaming everybody else, why they're in this car, why people are smoking down. And I don't know, man, must have got a contact buzz or must have did this. And now they messed up probation. They're going back to jail and over what? Putting themselves in a bad situation. It's not my fault, man. Not my fault.
Right.
So many other options,
Yeah, there is, and like I went to treatment the next morning. But before I even went to treatment, like I told my mama, I'm like, I'm leaving state because I'm going to go get high. But I didn't go get high, but for the first time ever in my life, I was actually able to see pain in someone's eyes because I was actually clear-headed where I wasn't high, I wasn't fucked up. Pardon my language, but it's, but I wasn't messed up, so I could actually see the pain in her eyes for the first time. I just got out of 7.5 months, was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go get high. And I put myself in that predicament, knowing that she was probably going to use, and I would still put myself in that predicament, hoping that I could trust her and stuff.
Somebody doesn't know to silence your phone when you're on a podcast rule. That's fine. Should we answer it? Who is it?
That's Shelly.
Oh, is that your girlfriend?
Yeah.
Is that your
Sexual relationship.
girlfriend?
Yes, it is.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how good is she in bed?
I'm not answering that.
Whoa, that's even worse.
No, I'm not kissing and telling.
Oh, okay. There you go. That was quick.
Well, how about your wife,
10.
10?
10.
Okay. 10.
All day.
All day?
Mm-hmm.
No, she's great,
7? She's
No, 10.
10, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. What does she do the best? You don't have to answer that, but what does she do the best?
She rubs my neck the best.
Which neck? No, just the one on your shoulders.
Yeah, the one on my shoulders.
One that keeps your head up.
Yeah, the one that keeps my
Man,
head up.
I'm on fire today. Take me to the comedy club.
You
Just
better.
Kidding. Just kidding. All right, back to the story.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, I was able to see the pain in my mom's eyes and whatnot. And everything. So, pretty much, I went to rehab with the clear head. I know I need to be here. I need to get something out of this. And at first, it was kind of nerve-wracking a little bit. But after 7.5 months of jail, I was like, shit, at least I could go outside here.
Right.
My PO's let me out. I can actually, I don't have an address to where I can actually legally be on probation. So I'm like, the only option I had was really rehab to get myself going in the right direction. And so I went to a rehab in Traverse City, which was real phenomenal. I walked in, got acquainted in my room. It was a real nice place. It was like one big happy family. If someone needed something, they had your back while you were there. Even the employees of the place were really awesome. I believe that's where I met you.
Yeah.
Pictionary.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I remember my first Friday night at Dukoski. But no, I was like, oh, at least I can smoke cigarettes and I can eat real food,
Mm-hmm.
which was a blessing after being locked up, and it really taught me a lot about myself, like strength, being more open-minded to things, willingness, and how to be honest for the first time in my life, and with myself, which was difficult, because addicts, we always mask everything by using, so we don't know how to be honest with ourselves. We say one thing and go and do the complete opposite thing. That's what we do. That's the nature of the beast. But yeah, it was really nice there. And then I went to sober living afterwards, because even after rehab, I knew I still didn't have no place to go. Being on probation, like I had to have some place to go on probation. So it didn't leave me with a lot of choices. And where I come from, Lake County, there's no recovery community there. There's no sober living with anywhere close, really, and I was just like, wow. So now I'm all the way up to Traverse City from there. It's only about an hour north, and then, I tried filling out the apps around Traverse City because of my probation. I couldn't get into one of them, and the other ones had a waiting list, and I'm like, well, this really blows. Like, what am I going to do now? I asked my counselor for an extension, and he was like, no, I can't, you got to figure out where to go. You've done 6 weeks. I'm not going to give you an extension. You got to figure this out. He goes, well, otherwise you're just going to keep putting it off because you're comfortable here. Which was nice of him to give me the kick in the butt I needed, light that fire. But, you told me about Nathan's house, and I went to Nathan's house, got some help to get there as far as funding goes. Because most people after they get out of rehab, you don't have 2 nickels rubbed together hardly at all.
Right.
And that's frustrating alone, But I was able to get hooked up with finance.
Yeah, the Community Recovery Alliance helped you.
Yeah, that's
Petoskey.
it. Yeah, Dale Hall.
Yep.
Great old man.
Wow, Jesus.
Man.
A great gentleman, yes.
Yeah, a great gentleman.
You don't need to call him old.
But but he was really nice. He was caring. He knew where I was coming from, even though he didn't know me. Just like Jason did back at Nathan's house. Because they know how we're doing things, how our mind works. Jason's actually, I couldn't be more impressed with how he runs his sober living houses. He he makes you commit to a 90 days when you go there, which is, at first you're like, 90 days, man. I don't know if I could do 2 weeks, and you're like, but once you get there and you get acquainted, it's like a family inside the house. So it's like I left one family to where I still communicate with some of the guys I was in rehab with, to now having this whole new family in a sober living house. I came in hardly with no food. There's a couple guys in it that says, man, I'll take you to the store. I'll give you $20-$30. Don't even worry about paying me back. And I didn't realize what, I was like, wow, I don't have to pay you back. Like, this ain't normal. This is almost like trying to get me hooked on something
you putting
again.
Candy on my pillow,
Right,
What's going on?
I'm not eating that Snickers bar. But, it was really nice, though. Jason's real warming, but at the same time, he's stern with things. You got to do chores. You don't do your chore, he's going to jump your shit. There's no way around it. But, he makes you get a job or do service work or go to school, something. Rent's pretty decent for the area, because even if you look to stay in that area, you can't find hardly nothing less than $1,000 a month. But your shared living expense is only $400 a month. So it's like real nice area. There's lots of job opportunities and everything. But, it's a real nice area. It's warming. Even the area with, you figure, being ex-addicts would try to shun away from you. But they don't. It's very opening there. Their minds are open-mindedness, willingness to accept you for who you are and realize you're not the person you were before, and try to give you that new opportunity and growth to have something in life. Like, I started working at a little gas station, grocery store there, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we love the houses. It's how we keep our employees coming in, because one leaves to find a better job, but yet it's a nice way to start." And I've helped a couple guys out like that. COVID hit. One of the guys I was close to there was working at one of the restaurants downtown. When they shut down again, he goes, "Now what am I going to do?" He goes, "I'm fighting for unemployment." He goes, "They don't want to give it to me." I'm like, "Man, why don't you just come to work where I work at, dude?" "No, I'm not working there." And he never used the term because I'm above it. Because no money's better than, any money's better than no money.
Right.
In that sense, as far as actual real work, but not all money's good money, though.
Right.
And he was, he came in there to work, and he did a great job. He still works there. And as the restaurants open back up, he dropped down to 1 day a week, because we never know what our crazy governor's going to do. They're talking about, here goes Europe spiking back up again, and people are already like, "Oh, this is great. Our governor's going to shut everything back down again."
I don't know. You got Texas running around, no masks on now. California's opening up theme parks. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
Who knows, man?
But it's undetermined, But at the same time, he wants to keep working there 1 day a week, just so if something like that does happen, because people are scared of it now. Oh, I work in hospitality, and I never know from one day to the next I'm going to have my job again. And it's sad that people go through that, but, he's like, "Oh, well, at least I can work here. At least this employer is still essential, because people need gas, people need groceries." And it's a really clean store, so a lot of people come in there in Boyne and around Boyne, because they require masks to be worn and everything. So in that sense, it's really good as far as that goes.
But they like the Nathan's houses. And I think what Jason's done with the Boyne City and his houses, because he's got 2 of them, is he's put the people out into the public to let them know, hey, we're not hiding. Here are the guys. They're needing a second chance, third chance, fourth chance, whatever it is. But they're trying to get their lives together. And if he were to hide it away, hey, don't tell nobody these guys are here. Instead, he takes people around to do volunteer work. He's out in the community going, "Hey, you need some help with that? I got some guys." That's the kind of approach Jason's taken to it. And I think that really opens the community up to it. Like, oh, well, okay. And then they meet some of the guys that are in there, you know, and I was in there, you know, so it's like there are good people, you know, who are wanting these second, third chances, you know, 4 chances, maybe a second chance, who knows. But he does a really good job of putting it out in the community. Like, he's not hiding it, you know, like these people, yeah, they have a past. Everybody has a past, you know, but the fact that it's these guys are looking toward a great future, and we're going to help them out. And, you know, a lot of people in the community really get behind that. And it made me feel comfortable there. Like, I didn't feel like I had to hide it. Not one time was I like, yeah, I live down at Nathan's house, you know. No, I was like, yeah, I live at Nathan's house, you know, that's where I'm staying.
Yeah, they like give you high fives, like, hey, I'm glad you're doing something great with your life. Or,
Yeah, good for you, man.
It's like, good for you. I'm glad you're doing something great. I appreciate everything he does in the community. And I never realized when I first got there how much pull he has in that community. Like, most people don't even realize it, but he has a big pull in that community because he's upfront and honest with everybody, and everybody's willing to accept that, you know, which is really nice. Like, he's got me some side work before, just from little contractors calling him, say, hey, you got anybody that wants to work? And he asks guys out in the house, hey, you know, because there's guys that come in all the time without jobs. They're like, he's like, man, don't worry about finding work. There's work all over up here. I remember he was telling me that. Don't stress about it. There's work up here. Just don't even try getting on Indeed and looking for anything. Just wait till you get up here. You'll find something that suits you. And, you know, I did, you know, and it's phenomenal. I couldn't be more blessed with the opportunities I've been given. And it really teaches you how to be honest about your past. Like, you don't have to be ashamed and hide from it. Because people's going to do background checks on you no matter where you go.
Right.
And you have to learn to deal with that guilt and shame. Like, but that doesn't justify who I am today from what I was 14 months ago. You know, I mean, yeah, I have a past, but I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed where I came from, though, neither.
Right.
Because that's how we grow.
That's how you got here today. You know, like, if all that stuff in the past didn't happen, and I don't know if I talked about it last night. I know I talked about it with my mom today, though, but that last time I drank, I'm glad I did. You know, as crazy as that may sound, because I was out on bond or whatever, and I drank, so I went back to jail. And if I didn't drink and then go back to jail, I wouldn't have got long-term treatment. They wouldn't have sent me up here. And I wouldn't have met my wife, and I wouldn't have started 217 recovery. I mean, all this stuff had to happen because I drank the last time that I drank. So it's kind of like one of those things where people are like, oh, man, bet you wish you could take that back. And no, I had to go to jail for another 7 days. You know, like, those are things I had to do to be where I'm at right now today. I'm not proud of it, but it happened and I accepted it. And like I said, looking at what I have today. So, you know, yeah, you're not proud of some of the things you've done. You know, you've done probably hurtful things in people's lives, you know, by taking their money and giving them something, you know, and you can't take it back.
No, you can't.
You know,
but the only thing this program does teach you is about giving it back, you know. And as far as since, like, we only have today by what we give away to another fellow person, which is our experience and our knowledge of the program, of whatever, you know. There's multiple pathways, but it all tails back to one addict best understands another addict, and you can meet with them halfway, you know, and understand. Like, you know, I went through all that, and now I'm doing recovery coach training. You know, I did recovery coach training already. I've done my ethics, and I'm doing advocacy at the end of the month. And then they're even got a program for recovery coaches in the emergency department. For when people come in and they're detoxing, where do they go at first? You know, some people can only get to a hospital. And they're trying to get recovery coaches in there so that way they can give them resources about detox centers and stuff, instead of just shipping them right back out on the street. And here they go again. Well, 2 days later, they're coming right back in for the same reason. You know, and it's heartbreaking that it's been stigmatism so bad about the whole addiction thing and whatnot that people don't really know about the resources or the programs that are available. Mm-hmm. Like to me, when I first caught my case, my lawyer's like, "Oh, go to rehab." But, he didn't tell me, well, here's the number to call to go to rehab. Here's who you need to get in contact with. He's like, "Oh, we'll just figure it out." Well, my way of figuring it out is, I'm just going to keep getting high. Because that's what my disease did to me. I didn't know who to reach out to at all. You can Google anything, but at the same time, what's Google going to tell you? You Google rehab centers and they're going to be like, "Oh, well, here's some out in California, here's some down in Florida," and it's crazy. Because if you look at Lake County, there's 3 or 4 different Lake counties in the United States. There's one in Indiana, down in Florida. So you Google rehabs around Lake County, and they'll give you different ones in the state. In the country, and it's like, oh, well, I can't go there.
I wouldn't recommend Googling it, but that's what people do. Let me Google rehabs near me, and you get a bunch of agencies that aren't even the rehab, but you think you're talking to the rehab, and you're not, and then you realize it's just a game, and they're making money off sending you to a certain rehab, and it's a business, that's kind of the shady side of it, is that it is business, and some people don't. That's all it is. Other organizations, other places, they look at it completely different. Like, yeah, it's business, but as long as we're paying our bills, we're good. We're about helping people, you know, and it's just like any other business. You go to a tire place. Some place really wants to sell the best tires. They want to do the best job. The other place is like, man, I just want to make the most money. I don't care if that's the best tire. I don't care if that tire is only going to last a year. Don't care. Want to make the money. Got to get the people in. Got to get people out. Where the other one's like, no, let's just take our time with this and put the best tire on, and that way, it's going to last you for a while. And it's like any business, man. So and that's what kind of sucks about it. But yeah, not knowing where to go, not knowing what to do can be frustrating. But you figured out you're in jail. You're like, all right, let me get out. Go to rehab. I need to do that. Let's do some sober living after that. Now, there was a point where a friend of yours and you guys were going to team up and go together, and then he kind of bailed on you. And then that was probably your first sign of, well, maybe I'm not going to hang out with these guys forever, because you get that tight knit in a treatment center where you get, you make friends with people and you're like, man, I'm going to talk to this guy the rest of my life. And then all of a sudden you realize, maybe not. Maybe they don't want the same life that I want. And it's hard sometimes because some say misery loves company, and I don't know, others would say, well, no, they're not miserable. They're just lost. And I don't know. I had kind of the same situation happen with Rob. Rob started the podcast with me, but we were in treatment together. We came out, went to Nathan's house, and then he had a little episode, and it was just, and I had to cut ties just because I knew that wasn't healthy for me to be in any kind of friendship, relationship kind of thing. Well, it wasn't like a sexual relationship or anything like that, but because I'm heterosexual. But
that's not what you were saying earlier.
That's what I said earlier.
Try to get you slipping.
Slipping, man. But no, it was hard for me though. But I had to close that door and just go, all right, man, see ya, good luck. Now we talked today, and Rob is somebody that I'll talk to the rest of my life, so I did make that kind of connection, but we had to cut ties for a minute, man, until he was kind of back on track himself, because there's no point trying to hold on to that when I'm trying to talk to somebody who's not even listening, like my mom tells me, and other people too, like talking to an alcoholic is pointless. Like talking to someone who's drunk is pointless, is what they say. And it's true. So why would I try to talk to someone who's going through some stuff that I really can't understand, and who's under the influence of, substance? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
So
I know I go through that with my mom. My mom's still an active drinker. still to this day, like, she quit enough while she was on probation to complete probation, but at the same time, you know, she called me last night, I don't know, 6 o'clock, you know, already had a few, you know, and, complaining about my brother and about how he's not being responsible. He's got to go to jail today, you know, because he got a possession charge. And I'm just like, you know, at some point in time, you have to let him grow up and realize what irresponsibility gets you. I was like, he's got to be able to hit rock bottom. When he never fully hits rock bottom because there's always that safety net of mommy there, he's never going to hit rock bottom. And for me, being sentenced to 7.5 months out of years upon years of using, I finally hit my rock bottom. I ended up in a jail cell where there was no place else to go. Like, I mean, I had a bunch of stuff. Nobody wanted to really go get my stuff. What little bit of stuff they did go get was all that I had. And I didn't even know what I even had. I was promised I still had a bunch of my stuff left, but in reality I got out and it's a couple bags full of stuff. My tools, and half my tools were missing, you know, and it's like, wow, you know, it's like no one did a thing while I was in jail, but, you know, but that was my bad, though. I knew I was going to have to go FaceTime. I should have been more responsible and got my stuff around and got it in order, even though I was using. But that's what we have to do, though. I mean, and so by him not being responsible and doing that, even though he's out on bond, he supposedly wasn't using. I actually talked to him a little bit today. You know, he's a little clear-headed. He had to go to court, like I said, this afternoon. I don't know if he's got to turn himself in today or sometime, you know, but, you know, it's his responsibility to get that done. I was trying to tell my mom that, and she just wasn't grasping it last night. And I finally just had to hang up the phone on her. Because at that point in time, you know, I'm getting worked up. People in the house see that I'm getting worked up. They're like, why'd you even answer the phone call for her, man? It's getting 6 o'clock at night, you know. She's probably already had a few. And I'm just like, but it's my mom, you know. And just like, you know, I'm sure your mom answered your phone calls still, even though when you were drinking, you know. My mom would typically answer my phone calls when I was using, even in my younger days, you know. Even if I was mad at the world, I mean, she's typically always answered my call. And so, you know, it's just out of mutual respect, you know, and because we still care and love that person. It's something that doesn't go away, but setting personal healthy boundaries is what it's about nowadays, especially with me, to be able to keep my sobriety and especially to keep on in recovery. It really makes a big difference by setting those personal boundaries. Even if I got to hang up on her, she knows why I hung up on her. Like, evidently he just can't deal with it today. And that's where it comes down to, because I'd rather not say anything at all and hang up on you than say something to hurt your feelings and could be the last time I ever talk to her. So I'd just rather hang up the phone and know that everything's all right.
Yeah, it's more of an action, I guess, acting instead of reacting. More action than reaction, I think. And someone would say, oh, no, you're reacting by hanging up the phone. I think reacting would be like, oh, yeah, well, F you too, then hang up the phone. I think, you know, and if you say, all right, Mom, I'm hanging up the phone, dink, you know, I think that's a deliberate act. Right. You know, not a F you too, you know, you're not perfect, Mom, and start calling out somebody else. I think that's a reaction. So yeah, you've learned, that's cool, man, and I don't know. I've seen you come a long way since the first time that I met you, and you know, seeing you and your buddy go different ways, and then you kind of shine. And I really like the fact that you went to Nathan's house. I think that was the perfect place for you to go right after treatment. I think you needed that kind of, like you called Jason. You said it was stern or something like that. But yeah, and I like Jason too because he's upfront with it. He's like, here's my expectations. And people say don't have expectations, but there's times where you need expectations. Like,
oh yeah, it comes with like 4 or 5 page list of rules, and yeah, you know, you you have to initial every rule that states, okay, well, I've read this rule, and it's like, and he'll bring it up to you too. He'll say, well, you signed this piece of paper, and a couple guys were like, we'd sign anything just to get in here. And so he went around within 2 months of me being there. Every fridge now has a rules and expectations list on it. And so he's like, you know what? Every fridge has got it on it. Everyone's assigned their own fridge. We got 4 fridges, so there's 4 copies of rules and expectations in the house. And he goes, and some of you probably still have them from while you were in treatment because you faxed in your paperwork. So you still have your originals. And he goes, so this is, but this is what you signed up for, I mean, if you get promoted to like a senior room or a bottom bunk, I've seen people get demoted back to a top bunk. I've been threatened to get demoted back to a top bunk once or twice, once for simply leaving my coat on my bed, But if we don't do the little stuff right, if we start slacking in the little things, we're going to start slacking in the little things in our recovery. Mm-hmm. And that's what he's teaching us, He's teaching us how to do the right things, Wake up in the morning, you make your bed. Mm-hmm. Better be nice and tight and right. If not, there's always the top bunk. You want to climb those little metal ladders again? No, I'm good.
They hurt.
They do hurt. You almost got to wear your flip-flops up onto your bed and then tuck them in at the end, It's almost like jail all over again in that sense.
Yeah. So forcing you to the top bunk made you actually, okay, yeah, because those little things hurt, man. And I was never in any jeopardy of going back to a top bunk, but that's cool you were. No, but the things that you learn there too, like you're going to realize too once you get out and say you, what was that girl that's a 10? Shelly?
Yeah, Shelly.
Yeah. Let's say you guys are meant to be and you get her pregnant. I mean, move in, get married. Then you'll start doing things and you'll realize, oh man, like I used to clean up after 12 men, like I used to clean the toilets for, 15 guys. Like now, like this is nothing. Like, I will clean the bathroom every week. You're like, I'll knock it out in 10 minutes, man. I know how to do it. I know how to do it right.
Right.
Like, fold clothes, no problem.
It's funny that you say that though, because like me and Shelly were hanging out together last week, and like I'd get done cooking and stuff. And she noticed it at the house, but it was more of a house rule. As soon as you get done cooking, you wash the stuff so that way the next guy can use it. It's clean. You don't go eat your food and be like, oh, I'll get that minutes. No, I did that once. I accidentally left the pan in the sink. I was at a meeting. I was waiting for the second meeting. He goes, I don't care if you got to walk back here. He goes, you're coming back here and washing that pan before you go to your next meeting. I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way, man. But, it teaches responsibility. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that Shelly likes most. I'll just, once we get done eating while I'm cooking, I start washing the dishes that I'm dirty in. So that way it's done. Mm-hmm. There's no mess. Everything's left clean and in its proper order where it should be. It's trying to teach us to have structure in our life instead of the chaotic mess that we're used to. Mm-hmm. And some people just live for the chaotic mess, and those are the ones that don't last long in the house like that. Like you said, a few of my buddies that I was in rehab with, we thought we were all going to go to the same housing, and because I was on probation, I couldn't get into one of the housings, like I said earlier, due to they just don't accept people on probation, really, from outside counties. And that's fine, because maybe that wasn't meant for me. Mm-mm. But some of those guys did slip, tried regaining their sobriety, but they did slip after going there. And who's to say I wouldn't have slipped with them?
Right.
And that's where, I think God puts us in our places where we're meant to be. We can't try to force something. We just have to go with the flow and what feels right. We can't try to fight against the grain our whole lives. You know, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen, you know?
I just remember there were people in there telling you, oh, man, you're not going to fit in there in Boyd City. You're not going to like Jason's house. You know, Nathan's house, when Jason runs it, oh, you're not going to like it. It's too strict. Or, you know, you're not going to fit in, you know. And
I remember hearing that. But, you know, in reality, I think it's helped me out a lot in my recovery. He makes you get a sponsor. He makes you work steps for some type of program. No matter which pathway you choose, you have to work a program. You know, he is open to multiple pathways of recovery, but you have to be working a program in recovery to be there. I think that's what most people don't really like, you know, is he makes sure you're doing that, you know. Every Monday night, you have to sit down, you have a house meeting, and you go over where you're at in your recovery. So that way everybody knows in the house, you know. He makes you do a peak of your week, a pit of your week, you know, what step you're on, or where you at, and depending on what pathway you choose, you know, where are you at in your recovery? Are you growing anywhere? Are you making any progress? Which is really nice, you know, so that way if someone is starting to fall or whatever, you know, we see it in the house, we try to catch them, pick them up, and say, hey, you know, this is what we got to do. New guys as well, you know, hey, you know, it's time to get a sponsor, you know, you can't just sit around here without a sponsor. It's just not going to work. Just don't get a sponsor and not communicate with them, because Jason will find out who your sponsor is. Like he told me one time, because I was like, oh, I'm on step 3, like, but my sponsor made me take time to go over steps 1, 2, and 3, though. He goes, because that's what's building your whole foundation of your recovery. He goes, my sponsor told me anyways, he goes, you have to become really open-minded and willingness to these first 3 principles of the program. He goes, you have to come to know that there's something out there greater than yourself. If you're only going to think that yourself is the greatest that can ever happen, you're definitely going to not make it. You have to turn your willpower over to something else. You know, there's been guys that turn it over to skateboarding, you know. Like, hey, skateboarding's my higher power, you know. Every time I get a little confused or whatever, I go skateboarding. Okay, well, so be it. I mean, I chose God as mine, you know. I've always believed in something, but, you know, but I've always denied him the right of saying, oh, well, he's never been there for me. But looking back on it, whenever I did right things, good things happened. And now that I'm not using it anymore, good things are really starting to happen for me. And, like, I would have never thought I'm where I'm at today. Like I could just pick up the phone and call someone and say, hey, man, you got any spots open at your sober living house? Because I'd really like to come to Traverse City, you know, even though it was offered. You know, I'm in a better position now, you know. Sure, they're opened up, you know, and I would really like you to come here and check us out, you know. Come down for an interview. So I'm doing the right things, you know, and also, you know, being able to leave jobs the right way. So just saying, oh, I hate you guys, I'm done.
Yeah.
And never go back to work for them. Like actually being able to put in a 2 weeks notice and actually sticking it out for the full 2 weeks. Instead of just saying, oh, yeah, well, I've worked a few days. I already put in my notice. I already got a new job. Deuces.
Right.
You know, but it gives you a personal feeling that you can actually achieve something and do things the right way. Mm-hmm. Which is very rewarding in itself. Makes you feel good about yourself, where you can actually do things good, so that way if something doesn't work out, it's not like you close that door.
Right.
You know, that door's still cracked open, especially if you were a good employee, you did what you needed to do while you worked there. Mm-hmm. You know, you could always go turn back in an application. 9 chances out of 10, I mean, you left on good terms, so most employers will rehire someone that left on good terms.
Yeah. And then there's some places where you just never work and never, the money's not a thing. Like, you're like, I'm not going to do that. But it does feel good to walk away the right way. And that's something that we're not used to. We're used to getting that phone call like, oh, you're not coming to work today? Hey, man, where you been for the last week? You know, and you're like, I don't like that job anyway. Never mind, bye. You know, like in radio, I never did that. But, you know, the jobs after, you know, I didn't take them serious. And, you know, yeah, I need money, but it was just, I don't know.
I remember one job, I was like 20 years old. I was cooking in a restaurant. I was already just having a bad morning. I was living with the manager at the time. I'd rented a room from her. And she knew me growing up as a kid. Her and her dad owned a restaurant. And I moved back to Lake County, Baldwin area. And, you know, she taught me how to cook in the restaurant at 14. So when I moved back at 20, I said, hey, you know, is your rental property open? No. She's but my spare bedroom is, you know. It was never like that.
What would you rate her? 1 out of 10?
No, I ain't rating that because I ain't never had it. But
so you wouldn't rate it if you did have it?
No. She was more like a second mom to me, you know.
2? Is that a code word for a 2?
But anyways, she was more like a second mom to me, and I looked up to her in some sense, you know. We're both addicts. And she's very proud of me where I'm at today, though. But I remember one day she was sick. She didn't feel like going to work. She asked me to go in for her. And I got up, went in for her. And her dad came in and was like,
"What are you doing, my daughter?"
No, it wasn't like that. It was, well, where's she at? I was like, evidently she's not feeling good. I'm covering her shift. He goes, were you on the time clock? No, man, I'm not even clocked in, man. I'm here doing a good deed for a friend, you know, pretty much. You know, she's giving me a spot to stay. And here he is trying to grill me like, well, what's going on? You know, I'm not paying you to work when she's supposed to be here to work. And I finally looked at him and said, you know what? This is why maybe your daughter doesn't feel like coming into work today.
Whoa.
I was like, maybe she's had enough of your shit too.
Got stern with them.
And then he comes back in a few minutes later. He says something to me. I finally took off my apron and I threw it at him and said, here, how about you learn how to cook eggs? And when you can learn how to cook eggs, maybe you might have a better sense of what people do in your restaurant. And I had like 5 or 6 tickets hanging up, and he didn't know what to do. Like, it was funny. It's like, I just walked out. And I got home that day. She goes, why are you here? You're supposed to be at work. I was like, yeah, your dad's an asshole, and I finally let him have it. She goes, you did what? I was like, yeah, I finally let him have it. I told him how we both felt, you know. I was like, it was kind of great. And in some sense, you know, she was like happy, but she was like, you really left him there to cook eggs? And I was like, yeah, I thought he could do a fine job. He seems to tell us how we could do our job all the time, so he must know how to cook an over easy egg. But anyways, he called the next cook in, and I ended up going in and apologizing. But she was all like, you know, maybe that's not the great way how you do things in life. But, you know, I was 20. I was a drug addict. I mean, by then, it was what it was, you know. But it does actually feel good just being able to put in a 2 weeks notice, finishing out strong. Like the little gas station I worked at. Like, I go in there sometimes, and they're like, hey, are you coming back to work for us? You don't even got to fill out an application. We still got all your stuff on file. Like, you could just be put back on the schedule with no training necessary. I'm like, no, I'm good. Thanks, guys. But, you know, I appreciate it, though. And it makes me feel good about myself that I left in that sense where they would just have me come back on, no questions asked, and just go through it all.
Yeah, instead of, can't go there. I used to work there and I quit that. You know, like, yeah, it's a good feeling for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Justin.
Well, Corey.
I know you have to hit the road.
I do.
But
it's Monday night and I got that crazy house meeting to go to. I don't know what's for dinner.
Technically, it's Tuesday. because that's when this is airing.
Right.
So earlier, I said it's the 16th of March.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine. I don't edit these.
I know you don't.
But no, you do need to skate out of here, and I appreciate you stopping by, man. It's cool that you're here, and hopefully you'll be around more.
Yeah, I hope to be too.
Hopefully everything works out for you, but just stay sober, man. It's great. Like in a year from now, you're gonna be like, I can't believe this, and this happened too, and I'll be like, just sitting there going, I told you, bro. Like,
it only gets better from here.
and you just sit back and be like, God, like, when are you gonna stop giving me cool stuff? Like, this is crazy. Like, how have you done this amazing stuff to my life?
Right.
But it's good, man, for sure. It is really good, and there's some really good people in recovery that work in recovery, and there's a lot of people that are just cool in recovery, that don't work in recovery but are there and that help people out all the time. So it's a cool thing to be a part of, man. A lot of people try to pretend to be in it, and whatever.
It's not one of those things you can fake it to make
No,
it.
but you can buy a shirt and I'll sell it to you.
Your handle's broke on your sweatshop, so I don't know how well that's going to work.
Well, a new one's going to be here today.
Oh.
Well, yesterday, according to this podcast, is on Tuesday. So Monday evening it came. So
Monday
the
evening?
press is operating, getting those St. Patty's Day shirts ready.
Well, I'll be back down here. I got to come down for an interview, so maybe I'll just have to stop by and buy one.
When are you coming back?
I got my interview at 7:30.
Tonight?
No.
As in Tuesday?
Yeah, as in Tuesday.
Okay,
night.
so yeah, so that'll be in time for tomorrow, which is really 2 days from today, because that's St. Patrick's Day. So maybe we can get you a shirt.
Yeah.
Am I confusing people yet? I don't know.
Oh, we're definitely confusing
Yeah.
people.
Great.
Squirrel.
But thanks a lot, man, for coming by, sharing a little bit with us, and we'll have you in again sometime for sure.
All right, thank you, Mr.
All right, everybody, give it up for Justin and his bravery for coming on the 217 Recovery Podcast. Not everybody can do this, Some people,
They get scared.
they're afraid, and people tell them, you go on there, and this is what's going to happen to you, boy. We'll tell that story at a later time. But
All right.
Thanks for listening to 217recovery.com for resources, more info. Of course, if you don't have the app, you can get the app. We're in the Play Store, and we're on iOS. So check us out. Appreciate you, and stay sober.